Hi guys, I hope this video doesn't seem too frantic. I've been working on this review for several months. I got a lot of information to get through and I want to jam-pack it in here. This is the Smith and Wesson M&P 9mm. As you probably know, the M&P stands for military and police. This particular line of firearms was introduced back in 2005 with the hopes to appeal to those global markets as well as to civilians. The M&P line has a large variety of configurations and calibers, ranging from the 22 LR up to 45 ACP. They have compacts, long slides, double and single stacks, revolvers, and AR-style rifles as well. Smith & Wesson did have some problems that they addressed with some of the early models, including upgrades to the barrel, slide stop, and the trigger bar to improve its tactile reset. Their upgrades and modifications aren't done with the release of distinct new generations or versions, but are instead continuously incorporated as needed in rolling changes. As I mentioned, one of those changes was to the barrel. These are 4 1/4 inch barrels with 5R rifling instead of the standard 6 slant and grooves. But on the early models, the barrels had a 1 in 18 plus twist, and there were reports saying that the pistols were failing to properly stabilize certain bullets. Some people were reporting the issues with 115 grain, while others were saying it was the 147 grain bullets. Anyway, I think somewhere around 2013, they did increase the twist rate to 1 in 10, which they claimed fixed the problem, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. I purchased this one in 2015, and it has the double dot or double dimple on the barrel, indicating it does have all the various changes up to date, including the 1 in 10 twist rate. By the way, check out the thickness of this barrel. That's straight up fair dinkum. I hope I used that expression right. Okay, moving on to the feed wrap. Well, it's okay. It's not as good as some, but it is better than others. There is a mildly abrupt transition while stripping off and chambering around, but the good news is I haven't had any kind of feeding problems, so even though it's not exactly Lamborghini-esque, it certainly has been adequate. How about chamber support? Well, I think it's excellent. And for those who care, this brief moment is just for you. Also, that mirrored surface and magnification exaggerates the cartridge protrusion. The extraction and ejection on this pistol are outstanding. I hope I can roll in a good picture of the high-quality extractor here because it is a beautiful beast. This is a very well-machined hardened stainless steel slide with boldly scalloped serrations on the side. The later models are finished with some kind of incredibly durable mystery coating. Is it ion-plated PVD Titan coat? I don't know. No one does. Not even Smith & Wesson knows. But anyway, let's move forward to the contoured front end. There's just a subtle bit there to help you out with reholstering. So at this point, I think I hear you saying, what about the guide rod? Alright, well, how about a hardened steel, full-length guide rod with a high-quality single encapsulated recoil spring? I don't know, might be kind of nice to have a little detent locator there, but definitely not a big deal. Smith & Wesson has included some excellent high-quality 3-dot painted sights. Both sights are drift adjustable, but I've been told that they're machine pressed in there super tight. Definitely not a bad thing unless you want to switch them out for some reason. Then it's recommended that you have it professionally done. The front post is 99% outstanding, but the sight face edge is just a tiny bit grabby, and I'll just leave it at that. The rear sight is a nice low-profile, ramp-style, semi-Novak-ish sight, also milled from that same high-quality steel. The sights are pretty quick to pick up visually and present an excellent sight picture with a very natural perspective. The sight radius on the standard full-size 9 is a generous 6.4 inches, and the pistol came from the factory shooting square on the money using a variety of different ammo. As with most pistols of this type, the slide and the frame run slightly awkward against each other. The slide rides a bit above the frame, potentially allowing dust to enter, so if you tend to play in the dirt a lot, that may be an issue you may want to consider. Okay, before moving on, there is one more gripe I have internally. To field strip the pistol, remove the magazine, you make sure it's empty, lock back the slide, rotate the takedown lever, then you double check the chamber making sure there's no ammo in there. Then you can either return the slide home and pull the trigger like normal, or you can eliminate the need to pull the trigger by extracting the frame tool, or just use your finger, and engage the sear deactivation lever, then remove the slide. That's the sear deactivation lever there. Okay, so here's my small gripe. It seems like if you're this far into the pistol, you should already be 100% confident the gun is unloaded, and pulling the trigger in a safe direction is a non-issue. I'm all for safety first, but it just seems like this is a little over the top. And those manufacturing costs could be put into other improvements. Trigger, and I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, as I mentioned before, this is a striker-fired pistol, but this model has no striker status indicator, which is fine since it also doesn't have a decocker. So it's just treated as if it's loaded and cocked as all guns should be. Preaching to the choir, I hope. So anyway, the striker firing mechanism is outstanding, and primer strikes are excellent. As a side note, it's recommended that you don't use strong solvents like brake cleaner or gun scrubber on the slide, because there's a no-lube, super low-friction polyethylene sleeve that's machine-pressed into the slide that the striker rides in, and that can be damaged by harsh chemicals. It's only a $2 part, but I've been told it's an enormous headache to replace. And also, as you probably know, don't use oil in or near the firing pin or the striker channel. So there's no tactile loaded chamber indicated on this model. Not going to say anything more about that, only that most of the M&P pistols have a small peephole instead of a mechanical loaded chamber indicator, so you can kind of eyeball it in good lighting, but the small hole makes it nearly useless in low lighting conditions. The front of the trigger guard is not squared nor textured, so if you like to wrap your offhand index, you might be disappointed with that. For me, the size of the trigger guard is great, and it'll probably be fine for people with large hands in medium-sized gloves. And that brings us to the trigger. Some people think the trigger is just fine, and some people are still annoyed with it even after the significant improvements by Smith and Wesson. It has kind of a hinged trigger safety that isn't especially horrible, and even though I do prefer the more common split trigger style, after you get used to it, you just kind of ignore it, and you almost don't even notice it anymore. Almost. See, the hinge trigger not only feels a little odd initially, but it contributes to what I've been calling the bump and grind trigger pull. It was most noticeable during the break-in period. When the hinge is stretched, it's meant to raise a safety latch on the rear of the trigger up and beyond the frame opening to allow it to pass through. If you don't have sufficient pressure low on the trigger face, you'll feel that safety latch slightly bump the frame. That's followed by a fair amount of gritty pre-travel until you hit a pretty stiff 7-pound wall to overcome. And then you get the typical striker-fired spongy break. That stiff trigger break is by far what bothers me the most. On the upside, there's very little over-travel due to the integral molded stops on the trigger and the frame. Then during the release, you have a very decent short and tactile reset. Okay, so I've sufficiently ridiculed and disparaged the trigger, and some of these criticisms are probably unfair to Smith & Wesson. A pistol can't be expected to be all things to all people. I'm a target shooter, and this is really meant to be a defensive duty spec pistol. If you're so inclined, Apex triggers are supposed to be pretty good in the Smith & Wessons, and I imagine I'll probably do that install at some point. Okay, a lot of time spent on the trigger, but it has been a key discussion point, so I thought I'd try to be as thorough as time would allow. Now moving on to the grip. I'm actually very happy with the grip on this pistol. It has the 18-degree grip angle that I think most people like, and in my opinion the ergonomics are excellent. There's a really nice non-aggressive texture on the front and back strap, with a lighter texture that stylishly feng shuis through the center of the grip. If you rotate and remove the frame tool from the grip, you can easily swap out the medium back strap for the included larger or smaller one. It does have a voluminous beaver tail there, so if you have large hands, I think you'll appreciate that. Anyway, what I hear you saying is let's talk more about redundant safety mechanisms. It does not have a grip safety, and for me that's a slight plus. I'm not opposed to all the safety mechanisms the cool kids are talking about. In fact, I opted for the thumb safety, which is ambidextrous. I know, haters gonna hate, and some people think the only safety they need is between their ears, but I like the frame safety, and it is optional for those that don't. Even though it does stick way out there, I've never found it to be in the way. Its functionality is absolutely awesome, it's very easy to manipulate, and the placement is about perfect for accessibility. It has a very good 3-groove accessory route. I'm not sure if it's the NATO spec or the mil standard 1913 Picatinny, and I don't really know if it matters as long as I can mount my cool modern era junk on it. flashlights, laser, zombie pistol bayonets, mini tactical tools. Maybe not. Anyway, the ambidextrous slide stop is a bit difficult to manipulate, but it is out of the way and it doesn't seem prone to accidental engagement, so I guess it's fine. The mag release is not ambidextrous, but you can swap it to the opposite side if you like. The functionality and location of the release is also excellent. There's been no problem with accidental mag drops or with the mags not dropping free. There's no magazine disconnect, so it will fire a chambered round without a mag inserted. The magwell has a pretty small flare for funneling, but in combination with the frame tool acting as a guide as well, it makes that process go pretty smoothly. The magazines seat really well and have a good positive engagement and a really good solid fit. They're a little stiff when trying to get the last rounds in, but that's just a good strong spring, so it's not a big deal. The standard package comes with two 17-round quality blued steel mags. Smith and Wesson occasionally runs specials where you can get extra mags with the purchase of the pistol, but unfortunately I missed out on that. Additional mags are going to run you about $30. Okay, so the overall fit and finish on the gun is pretty awesome, except where I've noted above. The machining, assembly, and the coatings are excellent. There's no binding, scraping, pinching, or biting. You can insert your own joke there. As far as weight goes, at 24 ounces, it's right there with its competition, like the Glock 19, the SR9, PPQ, VP9, and the XD Mod 2. Also, with it being a polymer pistol, I figured I'd do a limp wrist test, and it performed flawlessly. As I mentioned in the beginning, there were some problems early on with bullet stabilization with that 1 in 18 barrel twist. I did my own test with this 5R 1 in 10 with a variety of different ammo types and weights. I shot out to about 75 yards and experienced no problems with bullets tumbling or keyholing. At 25 yards, I didn't notice any significant problems with wild flyers that couldn't be attributed to me or the goofy rest I had set up. I bought this pistol back in April of 2015 and I've put a decent amount of rounds through it. I've told you all the good, the bad, and the ugly on the pistol that I could fit in the video, and I'll leave a little bit of space at the end so I can annotate if something comes up. But the real questions are, would I recommend it to you guys, to friends, to family members? Would I buy it again? And would I entrust my life to it? My answer, after all the testing I've done so far, is an enthusiastic yes. It's an excellent pistol with very few minor hitches, most of which aren't even probably that noticeable to most shooters. If these pistols are good enough for the military and police straight out of the box, they've got to have a few good things going for them. Not only would I recommend this pistol to longtime shooters, I'd also recommend it to both male and female first-time buyers as well. It's a good, solid shooter, and I expect it to last a long time. I'm confident that anyone who picks this up will get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So what's in the box and how much is it? It pretty much comes with the standard equipment. You get the USA-made 9mm all greased up like a Thanksgiving butterball, and remember not to use gun scrubber on the slide. You get a plastic hardshell case, which is pretty nice on the outside, but unfortunately it's pretty crappy on the inside. There's a spent shell casing, gun lock, manual, etc. As of fourth quarter 2015, you can get these with the two 17-round mags for about $425. Another nice thing about buying a popular brand name pistol is that you can easily find lots of aftermarket parts and accessories. They're not always cheap, but they are there if and when you need them. Okay, that's it. I hope this helps. And as always, thanks very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Now here's some blank space and some music where I'll add annotations later if necessary. Take care, guys. Riz out. Something that did occur on my last trip out that I hadn't encountered previously was that the slide stop spontaneously disengaged when I inserted a fresh magazine. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but it is something that should be noted. It seems like there's a possibility that the pistol is shooting slightly left on the first shots of the day when the barrel is cold. So I'll have to do some more testing with that once I can figure out a way to properly stabilize the pistol and minimize confounding variables. Hi guys, sorry for the echo. I wanted to get a couple more things on this video. I wanted to show the looseness back here. Don't know if that's going to be an issue. It's not bad, but it is something, and perhaps it could have used another roll pin up in here. The second thing is when there's a full magazine, the spring's pushing hard on that top bullet. When you insert it in the mag, sticks up slightly outside of the feed libs. I think those could use a little more sturdiness there. Okay, that's it. Rez out.